what recharge looks like, what an aquifer recharge looks like, how it's done, the mechanics of it. Can you give us a general description in that regard of how that's done, how on the water board you guys account for that?
Yes, Ranking Member Risch, I can certainly give you a non-technical explanation.
I'll bet you give me a technical one too if I ask.
So basically what happens is when there is water in the rivers that is over and above the amount that's necessary to fill the reservoirs and to provide water rights that already exist, and that happens almost every year. Even in drought years, there are some times when water is available. So what happens is the board has a water appropriation that allows it to divert that water out of the river, and it will put that water in a canal or in a pipeline and deliver it to a basin out there in the desert. And we will then put that water in the basin and allow it to gradually and slowly infiltrate into the aquifer. And it causes the aquifer to mound up in those areas. And we carefully monitor the groundwater for contamination to make sure we're not adding anything that will contaminate the groundwater, and so far the system has worked like a charm.
How long have you been doing that? What's the history of that?
The Water Board has been doing this for 8 years. We started 8 years ago. We ramped it up in the last, 2021 was not a great year to recharge, but we've ramped it up, and last year we did over 250,000. And in 1 year, 2017, we did over 500,000 acre feet because it was such an abundant water year.
And when you put the water into the ground, when you mechanically discharge water into the ground, I'm assuming it could be something natural like the Big and Lost River drainages that are really pretty spectacular, where large rivers just dissipate into the ground. Is that a fair statement?
That's exactly correct, Senator Risch. The area where the basins are is fractured basalt, and the water will just infiltrate in, just like snowmelt would, just like rain would. And there's an aquifer under there that is probably, people say it's the size of Lake Erie, at least spatially, it's that big. And so there's a lot of places where water infiltrates into that aquifer, and we just need to find the right places close enough to the river and places where there's water available from when we have flood flows.
In the case of the Big and Little Lost Rivers, it's carried underground for quite a ways before it comes out into the Snake River down by Twin Falls. Is that a fair statement? Yeah,
that's correct. And so the Big Lost is a perfect example of exactly what we're doing. And we're doing it managed. The rivers did it naturally. They flow out onto the basalt lava flows and they disappear. And the Big Lost and the Little Lost rivers really are lost. They don't get to the Snake River. They recharge that aquifer, and then the aquifer, and if you've never seen it, if anybody here has never seen it, it's spectacular. The aquifer comes out of the side of the canyon walls in Hagerman, and so we have waterfalls that stop not at the top of the hill, but they come out of the side of the canyon, and it's really a pretty cool thing.
It's pretty spectacular.
And so so what we do with these managed aquifer recharge is we supply this additional water because there's water that's being drawn off for agriculture, for municipalities, and the aquifer's been in decline. So we need to repair that.
And the water that comes out there is being used for different purposes, like you say. Some of it actually is used to. They put in a pipe and generate electricity with it. Idaho Power does. But to me, one of the most interesting uses is the use for raising trout along that very small 3-4 mile stretch of the Snake River. They tell me that if you order a trout in a restaurant in the United States, there's 90% chance it was raised under the circumstances you just described, and that is water that went into the Little Lost River and came out in the Snake River Canyon. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's correct. And it comes out at 60 degrees, which is the perfect temperature
All
for
year
raising
long.
trout.
All year long, every day.
And it's a tremendous industry in southern Idaho.
So one problem we have with that, as you're aware, is using the canals to get water to these discharge spots. And as a result of that, I passed a bill last year that authorized the BLM to not require users to jump through all the hoops to get the water there. You're familiar with that legislation, are you not?
Yes, Senator.
You're also aware that the BLM has decided to read that a little differently than what we expected they would read it. Is that correct?
That's correct. The BLM interprets the statute that you all passed to not apply if the water board is the one doing the recharge, when we're the ones that are doing all the recharge. They are interpreting the statute to apply only if the owner of the canal is doing the recharge for the owner of the canal's benefit. And most of those canal owners don't actually use groundwater, they use surface water. So our goal is to use their canals to recharge the ground for the groundwater users and for the benefit of the aquifer. And the BLM's interpretation is making that difficult to achieve.
So, Mr. Brain, I'm going to turn to you because it's the department, not your lane, I understand, it's BLM's lane. But I'm going to ask you to take this back to them because there isn't any reading of that statute. For one thing, there's no reason given for that. I mean, if there was a reason for it, you might be able to argue it, but there's no reason given for that. And the language of it seems pretty clear to those of us that actually do the language. So are you familiar with this problem, or is this outside? Is it outside?
I'm not, sir, but as you mentioned, I'd be happy to follow up with
If you would do that, keep us from having to jump through the hoops again to pass another statute that say we really, really mean it, because it's pretty clear. So.
And thank you for bringing it up, Ranking Member.
Thank you very much. We would appreciate your help on that. Thank you.